Chapter 7 Optimism is about getting lost. Since traveling is a norm in my family, I have never really worried about getting lost. To me, it's like finding a $20 bill in your jacket pocket that you never wear. It's unexpected, but pretty awesome. I have friends who map out everything when they travel, day by day, hour by hour, and I'm just the type of guy who just shows up and plays it by ear. For one example, one day I was in Korea to watch the League of Legends World Championships, and I got a chance to explore the market across our Airbnb. And just before I left, I arranged with my girlfriend and the other friends just to meet up in the early evening. I decided it'd be pretty cool to get a haircut while I was there, and just surprise everyone when I turned up looking all handsome. It was late in the afternoon, but the sun was still shining, and I figured I had a ton of time. I stopped to watch some of the student buskers, and I got a snack from the food cart. Now, as I was searching for the barber, the sun started to set. No problem, I thought. I'll just quickly get a haircut and I'll be on my way. Now, I'm an experienced traveling salesman. I don't need no GPS. I'll just use the landmarks. Now, the fried chicken shop's over there and the main street is that way. When I eventually found the barber, it was a tiny hole in the wall shop. It even had that red, white, blue spinning thing outside that barbers have in Canada. Now, when I walked into the shop, I was greeted by an old Korean man, and it didn't matter if I couldn't speak the language. I just pretended to cut my own hair, and he got the message. He handed me this trendy Korean magazine. I flipped through it, found a simple haircut, but this dude took his sweet time getting started. But once he did, I really enjoyed it. Now, it turns out that when you wash your hair in Korea, you're facing downwards and not the ceiling like you do in Canada. So basically, the barber shoved my face into a big ass sink, and whatever, I just relaxed, enjoyed the silence, and lost track of time. Now, the trouble was, by the time he finished and I paid, the market and the street completely changed. I walked out and it felt like I was in a completely different city. The street was alive, the music was playing at various stores, new carts were popping up, and it just started to get really busy. So I scratched my head and I said, oh shit, it's not good. So I thought I just walked up the street and turned left from the barbershop, and I figured that's exactly what I needed to do, just go reverse and get back to where I was staying. It was an enjoyable walk, and since I was confident in where I was going, I figured I could just explore a little, and then bam! One moment I was in a busy area, and the next, after making a few turns, there was literally nobody around me, and it was something out of a movie. No noise, just silence. At this point, I had another oh shit moment. I walked back to where I thought I came from through this alley and that alley, and it was just dead silence around me. Uh-oh would be an understatement. I stood there just pondering, like, what should I do? I needed to find someone to help me, but I couldn't speak Korean. What I did have was this app on my phone. All I needed was access to Wi-Fi, but you guessed it, there was nothing. Who would have thought it'd be okay to not purchase an internet plan while going overseas? Now, rather than just stand there like an idiot, I just started to walk down the street looking through the app to see if there was a word for train station. Our Airbnb was in front of one, so all I needed to do was find the nearest one. Now, being lost is like being put in a pressure cooker. Everything you do and see feels heightened. Now, I wasn't going to die, but I also didn't want to be that guy who got lost and had to be brought back to his Airbnb by the police. Now, getting lost, I really had to immerse myself in the environment. I started looking at things in great detail. I started recognizing streets and that I've walked like 6 times. Like, I loved it. When I approached strangers on the street, I told them in English that I was lost and said train station in Korean and pointed around. They set me in a certain direction, and the more I asked for direction, the more I got to explore. I found a lot of restaurants and cool little shops selling trinkets that I would never have seen if I had just gone to a restaurant that I Googled. Now, eventually, I recognized where I was, and I got back to the Airbnb. Turns out, I just went in the opposite direction of where I needed to go from the barbershop. My friends had no idea what I'd just gone through. To them, everything was normal, but I had just gone through fear and nervousness and anxiety. If I doubted myself and became negative, there would be no way I would have enjoyed this walk as much as I did. Yet I came back in one piece and just in time to leave with my friends for dinner. This is why I compare getting lost to finding a $20 bill in your pocket. That experience was one of the biggest highlights of my trip to Korea, and it was completely unexpected. because it's one of those moments of clarity when you realize that you're lost and that caused you to either fold under pressure or dig deep and figure something out. And I give myself bonus points for being able to take my friends to a trendy Korean restaurant that I found while I was lost. I don't only get lost in foreign countries though. When I was still in university, my girlfriend's sister and brother-in-law would go to the small town beach about an hour away from where we lived. She said she'd like to go there too, and we packed a cooler full of drinks, some food, and we left early on a Saturday morning. When we were near the beach, I realized nothing was opened until 9 a.m. Now, the town was so small that if you drove down the main street very far, you passed the entire town. As we were heading down to the beach, I missed the exit and I needed to do a U-turn. Since the single road highway wasn't wide enough for me to do one, I drove down a farm road that was also too narrow. I ended up driving up all the way to the farm, and as I was pulling up, I saw two women sitting on the porch, and then a dog came running up to the car, which caused me to stop. That could have been an awkward situation with the two women having watched me deliberately drive up all the way to the farmhouse for no apparent reason. To try to prevent that, however, I did what I know best. I rolled down the windows. "Good morning. How are you today?" My girlfriend didn't say anything. She just watched me from the passenger seat. "Good morning," one of them said. "We're well. Can we help you with something?" "Yeah, we're planning to visit the town, but there's nothing open. I was just trying to do a U-turn, but here I am." Both ladies chuckled and asked what we were going to do that morning. I mentioned that we were going to go to the beach and hang out and explore the town. But then there's nothing else to do. I just threw out a question. "Hey, my girlfriend and I have never been on a farm. Could we just explore yours to kill time?" There was a pause and the ladies looked at each other. "Sure, why not?" "Sweet, thank you so much," I responded. I honestly never had been on a farm. Even when I was selling knives, it's usually at residential properties, and I rarely went out selling in the boonies. I rolled up my window, looked at my girlfriend, and chuckled. As I got out of the car, I was greeted by this large dog, and I patted him on the head. We walked up to the ladies and introduced ourselves. They were a mother and daughter, and the daughter was just visiting that morning. Just like I learned in sales, I made it my goal to ask questions about them and tell them about ourselves. As with any presentation, there was a process of give and take. I told them that I was going to university and working part-time selling knives, which I was still doing at the time. We were invited to sit on the patio furniture and we chatted for a while. It was remarkable how cool the mom and daughter were with us being there. They asked us what we wanted to do after school and what made us come all the way down to the beach. What I thought was going to be a quick hello and goodbye ended up being a complete morning with the family. As lunchtime approached, the mom asked us if we wanted to stay. Well, we had nothing else better to do, so we were more than happy to. "Well, since you haven't been on the farm before, let us show you how we do things here," the mother said. "Would you like to pick the vegetables from the garden?" My girlfriend and I looked at each other and we agreed that it would be great. As the mom took us to the garden, the daughter started up the barbecue. We walked down the big deck and around the corner, one of the biggest gardens I've ever seen. They had everything. You name it, they were growing it. The mom directed us to pick up some vegetables. I took my camera out to document the moment. It ended up being a really cool experience for the both of us. Once we were done picking enough vegetables for everyone, we went inside to wash them. Then, as we set the patio table for lunch, they asked me what kind of sales I was doing. I told them I sold knives. They asked if I had any pocket knives. The mom mentioned that her husband had been looking for really good pocket knives, so maybe when he came back, he could look at what I had. Is this really happening, I thought? Am I about to make a sale because I missed my exit and ended up on somebody's property because I couldn't do a U-turn on the road and then got invited to eat lunch with them? But it was literally unfolding before my eyes. Once the food was ready, we sat and talked into the early afternoon. Our conversation was interrupted when the husband drove up. He was surprised he had guests. The women told him what happened. He chuckled and introduced himself. Then he walked into the kitchen, grabbed himself a plate, and sat with us. He got a chance to get to know us, and his wife mentioned that I was selling knives that he might be interested in. "Sure, let's see what you got," he said. I went to the car, pulled out my catalog, and explained the features, benefits, and guarantee to him. He flipped through it, and when he got to the pocket knife section, he pointed out one of the black handle knives and said, "I'll like one of these, please." "Yes, sir," I replied with no hesitation. I wrote up that order. There and then, we carried on talking. After lunch, we said our goodbyes, hugged, and even took a photo. The picture turned out pretty awful, but it was one of the most memorable photos to date. When we left the farm, my girlfriend and I didn't say much at first. I just remember her laughing how random that encounter was. We went into town, played mini golf, and we went to the beach where we ate ice cream. It ended up being a very eventful vacation because I went the wrong way. Being optimistic is the key when you're lost, whether literally or figuratively. It gives you feedback on how you feel about where you're at, and it applies just as much as to your goals and dreams and aspiration as it does geography. Sometimes the thing you plan in life don't go according to plan. Maybe you didn't get into your desired college or you didn't get that dream job, but nonetheless, you need to try to see the light in every situation. By relying on the light of optimism, you'll find something inside you that will allow you to push forward even though you might not know what will happen next. Sometimes the best things that happen to us are things we didn't account for. You never know when someone will walk into your life and make a massive impact on you, or when you'll be that person for someone else. Just remember, you have 100% control over your abilities to see the best in yourself and in any situation you find yourself in. Chapter 7 summary. If you get lost, embrace it, but also to make sure you buy a data plan. Getting lost at night is definitely worse than getting lost during the day. Now, if you're stuck between a dog and an awkward place, just say hello and introduce yourself. Vegetables grown and hand-picked from the garden are really tasty. And sometimes, but not always, you might be able to make some commission by attempting a U-turn.